Hello. Most of the material in your texts relate to grant writing, but there is so many other types of support to be considered when trying to raise funds for your cause or nonprofit. This presentation provides an overview of the different types of ways nonprofit organizations raise funds and how to know if your organization or cause is ready to seek the funding. That screen may have scrolled fast, but we will go over them again one by one, and you can view the outline in the PowerPoint under this week's folder. The first was fundraising. Most likely, we all have gotten a telemarketer call asking for a donation, but fundraising also includes the candy bars we purchase at our doors or from a coworker, the car washes, the rummage sales, the wristbands, and the luncheon or dinner events. With fundraising, there is little connection or just an overview of information given about the cause. The primary objective is to raise funds. The second fundraising method is services for a fee. This includes sliding scale fees. For example, non-profit hospitals that forgive bills for lowest income patients but charge higher income patients. Counseling services have sliding scale fees, and groups with sliding scale membership dues. There are many nonprofits that open their services to a larger population and charge a fee to those who can afford it so that they have money to pay for the services of those who cannot afford them. The third type of support has been discussed in previous classes. It is individual support and is different from services for a fee because this support comes from individuals who believe in the work you are doing and not because they are getting an item or service in return. These type of donations are golden. Having many individuals who truly support you is key to the sustainability in any organization. It demonstrates you are connecting with the community you serve and that they are taking ownership in your work. The fourth type of support has been reviewed in prior classes too. It is foundation grant funding. As discussed, there are different types of foundations, expectations, and ways of asking for support from foundations. The most common is through an application process. The final type of support we will discuss is government funding, either through grants or contracts. Of course, there is local and state funding as well as federal funding. I have put an emphasis on federal funding because of the difficulty of complying with these funding requirements, and often, federal funds is the source of the local or state government funding, so those requirements remain in place. Each of these types of funding has a different level of readiness needed. I believe that one of the most important aspects of fundraising is knowing when or what an agency should apply for and when or what they should not. Before making any type of requests to anyone outside the organization, there are 5 basic areas that need to be addressed. So here is your checklist for the organization before they start any type of fundraising campaign. 1. They should have their mission clear and know what they are doing. 2. They should know their nonprofit status. Have they obtained one, or are they a good cause without a tax-deductible status? 3. Who is governing them? Who is their board of directors or is assuring that they are accountable? 4. Do they have bylaws or a governing statement that they follow? 5. Do they have the approval to raise funds in the state where they are raising funds? For example, in Arizona you have to register each year with the Secretary of State. These are basic components, but they are at times overlooked, and then the cause or nonprofit stumbles in trying to deal with them later. With this basic checklist reviewed, you can now tell what type of fundraising your cause or organization is prepared to seek. Remember, each type of support has varying levels of requirements. Let's start with the funding type that is the largest in the nonprofit world: the individual donations. Your organization will need to make clear that it doesn't have a nonprofit status if it doesn't, but you have to have an accounting system that records donations or pledges. For pledges, the system needs to be able to track and send reminders. There should be a process for sending thank you notes and required tax deduction notices. The next 2 aspects are not dealing with the donation recording but with the accountability and the ask. Make certain that the program or services are credible. If you ask a person to support an organization that is not credible, that individual will remember and you'll lose your credibility in the nonprofit sector. Your name and reputation is your most valuable asset. Don't lose it. If an organization can't document services outcomes, have them stick to fundraising where people support the group through auctions, sales, and such. If they can document services and have the checklist items in place, then they can ask for individual support. Remember to build a relationship first when you can. You wouldn't walk up to someone and say, "Will you pay my electric bill?" That isn't a good pickup line, and it doesn't work in requesting support either. Through newsletters or mail, make sure you tell them about the cause you're serving. The last two types of support have the heaviest requirements for managing the funds received. With both foundation grants and our government grants, you are agreeing to perform some service outlined. There needs to be a tracking system to show both how funds were spent and how people were helped. With government funding, the requirements are even more exact. You have to show you have policies in place for drug-free workplace, affirmative action, purchasing practices, terrorism prevention, and more. You will also have to have exact records as outlined in the government manuals. If the organization does not have policies in place and tracking systems that can handle multiple levels of accounting, do not risk the organization receiving government funding, because the government will audit and will ask for the funds back, even if they were spent correctly but there is not proper documentation that it was spent as their manuals require. This is a lot of information. If you take away only one thought, let it be that part of the responsibility of a fundraiser is to assure that the funds raised will not cause problems later for the organization or cause. Make sure the organization is ready and then help them succeed. Your assignment this week is to write a 3-paragraph summary on the nonprofit or cause you are wanting to support. This week's folder explains the assignment, but as you are learning about the cause or organization, think about the level that they are ready to use for raising funds. And finally, by the way, does anyone else feel like dancing when they hear that background music?